Hello, and welcome to this iOS Press presentation where we look to the future in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Carmel McNamara, and I work as the Marketing and Communications Manager at iOS Press, and I'm here with my other colleagues from the SDG Working Group, Gabriella Ricci and Oksana Skorobine, who are both publishing executives working with a portfolio of journals, and Martin Stavanger, who is the publisher for our Environmental Policy and Law journal. So I'll just tell you where this working group started. Next slide, please. In 2020, we joined the SDG Publishers Compact from the United Nations. We signed up to this so we could develop our sustainable practices as a company, and we do that with working on our publishing books and journals which include content on this topic, and also to do with setting direction for ourselves as a company in terms of this important area. Next slide, please. In the first year of the working group, we've set a number of priorities to do with various sustainable development goals listed here. The initial ones were SDG 5 and 10, and Gabriella will discuss these. Then we're focusing on SDG 12 and 17, and Oksana will share information. And finally, we're currently looking at, in the future, working on SDG 13, and Martin will provide further details on that. In relation to this important topic, we've also been joining with other organizations and publishers where we find it's important to be transparent and share ideas in this area to move forward. Initially, one of our first steps was setting up the diversity and inclusion statement. Next slide, please. So our diversity and inclusion statement is listed on our website, and when we joined the SDG Publishers Compact, we found this important to look at working towards a wider inclusivity for the company and also for our boards and authors that we work with. When we've been inviting a number of editors, well, all our editors from our journals to share with us whether they are committed to also working towards this inclusion statement. And my colleague, Gabriella, will share more on that now. Next slide, please. Gabriella will now tell us about the first priorities that we worked on.
Initial priorities to work with are SDG 5, gender equality, and SDG 10, reduced inequalities. Next slide, please. So we selected our priorities and decided to do an initial assessment of the geographical diversity of iOS Press authors. For that, we used LD Connect, which screens all our authors who publish with us. And we also invited the editors-in-chief to support our this and to have their editorial boards analyzed in terms of gender and geographical diversity. We are also looking at having our editorial management system to have our gender of our authors disclosed as well. So in the near future, we will have the option for all authors to disclose their genders. And this will also be used in our future evaluations. Next slide, please. So from our initial assessment, we saw that the gender distribution of our editorial boards is composed more of male editors, as you can see here. And the geographical distribution of authors is quite spread around the globe, but with most authors in Asia and also many authors coming from Europe and North America, whereas our editors come mostly from North America and Europe. So from this initial assessment, next slide, please. We wanted to, first of all, raise awareness of the current situation together with our board members and especially the editors-in-chief. And from there, we invited the editors to look actively to their boards and really bring this discussion in their editorial board meetings. And we also suggested a few actions that you can see here in this slide that would help journals to have a more equal spread in regards to geographical location and also gender. Next slide, please. So for now, we had very good initial feedback. Most of our editors-in-chief agree that supporting the DIS is something important. And we have more or less 1/3 of our journals already supporting the DIS and taking actions. And we also invite our editors-in-chief and our editorial board members to bring us their own opinions and their own suggestions of things that would work well for their journals and their communities. And we expect substantial change. We already see changes in the editorial board's composition, and we hope and we believe that these changes will also show in a more equal distribution of authors in the globe as well. Next slide, please. And now Oksana will present to you what we are currently looking at regarding the SDGs.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. As Carmel already mentioned, we are currently working on SDGs 12, responsible consumption and production, and SDG 17, partnership for the goals. Next slide, please. We recommend reducing the amount of print copies, and there has been an internal procedure in place since the end of 2021 to not send printed copies to board members, and the copies to indexers have also been reduced. And we are currently looking at ways to reduce print runs even further and encourage online publishing. We recommend prioritizing electronic services company-wide. If printing is necessary, we recommend choosing ecologically sound paper and materials, and we encourage sustainable marketing. Some of the ideas are listed on the slide. Next slide, please. Then on to SDG 17, partnerships. We recommend that iOS Press prioritizes working with partners or suppliers that are like-minded in terms of environmentally focused approach, and for those which sustainability is on the agenda. And we are assessing which current suppliers fall into this category. We also take note of those that do not have a public sustainability statement or environmental policy, but inform us that they are implementing environmentally conscious procedures. Next slide, please. So looking ahead at 2030, Martin will now tell more about what we aspire to do.
So one of the very big things that we are addressing is change our impact on the global climate. And we've taken first steps with the activities as we've mentioned before on the slides we just presented. But looking ahead, we realize we need a more structured approach for our organizational focus. And certainly if you look at the climate action, because that requires bigger steps. We looked at various standards and reports that we could use, and the GR standards and the UN Global Compact Communications Progress Standards are two of the sets that we are going to use They will help us to identify which areas we want to focus on, and also help us to report on our progress. If we do that, we can also work towards joining the Climate Pledge, which really is the way for us to strive to become net zero by 2040. It's a complete program. It will be quite some work. It's a long-term agenda, but we are very passionate about how to reach that. And annually, we will take further steps. We will look towards strengthening our governance structure. We will look at where the impact can be improved most. We will assess how important these impacts are, and we will prioritize them, because we have to make choices, of course. We can't do everything at once. And in doing that, we will also determine how we will report on our progress in order to communicate to all the stakeholders we work with on how we progress, and also to report on the progress that they are making in connection to our work. In doing so, we will also describe how we will manage the actions to create the impact, the positive impact that we will make on the environment. So in conclusion, by doing this, we will be using the UN Global Compact Communication Progress Standards, which is a complete set of how we should address the environmental challenges. And we will use that to inform on our progress of reaching our goals. Having said that, I can turn the presentation again to Carmel.
Thank you to all my working group colleagues here with this presentation, and I'd like to invite any comments or feedback that anyone watching might have. You can send them to me at any time, and if you wish to find out more about this area, please visit our SDG page on the website. And you can also sign up for quarterly news updates from iOS Press on that page, so you will get updates into your inbox. We feel this is a very important area, and we hope to make a lot of progress in this area in the future. Thank you for your time and attention watching this presentation.